Stephen Miles will be the next Premier of Queensland after Health Minister Shannon Fentiman withdrew her candidacy. Stephen Miles says his focus is on the people of Queensland.
Absolutely focused on them, their safety, their cost of living and the issues that are important to them.
But Opposition Leader federally Peter Dutton today said that the Premier in waiting will be more focused and owned by the unions.
I saw a comment yesterday from somebody in the Labor caucus who rightly pointed out that if Stephen Miles becomes Premier, which obviously now he will be completely and utterly owned by Mr Bullock and the union movement. And that is not what Queenslanders voted for.
All right, let's bring in now Associate Editor of The Australian, Jenna Clarke, to talk us through this and the rest of the day's top stories. Great to see you, Jenna. Look, what do we know about Stephen Miles, the new Premier of Queensland, and what do you make of the accusations that, in effect, he's a puppet for the unions?
Yeah, Sharri, I think Mr Dutton's pretty much bang on. Rather than just beholden to the unions, he's also pretty much just Annastacia Palaszczuk in a suit, because this is not renewal. This is just the exact same thing that we're going to get for the next couple of months as we head into campaign mode, because he's just reiterating exactly what Premier Palaszczuk was saying. I'm going to look after your safety. I'm going to make sure your cost of living is coming down, when in reality, they're not really doing a lot about it, because youth crime, as we know, is out of control in that state, and the health system is absolutely cooked, which is interesting why someone like Shannon Fentiman has decided to pull out of the race. And I think it's pretty smart. She's probably going to let Miles take this hit at the election because of, I think, my personal opinion is that David Christofouli, the LNP leader, has done a great job and will probably romp this home for the LNP come next year.
Look, let's have a look at how the Albanese government's tracking as the year comes to a close. Albanese on holidays again this week. Well, not again, but he's on leave. He's on holidays this week. It's yet another week that he's not focused on Australia and domestic politics. The Australian's political editor, Simon Benson, says that there's a perception that's now set in that with no action being taken on the cost of living, this is now hurting the government politically. Simon Benson writes that the Treasurer needs a new economic narrative in his mid-year budget update. This all, of course, as we're seeing rising costs of living, higher interest rates. This is clearly the main concern for Australians. And Jenna, do you think Simon's right that the perception is the government's just not doing enough to deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's bang on the fact that Jim Chalmers likes to talk a lot about the economy rather than actually doing things about the economy. Maybe less time doing good weekend features and writing 6,000-word opuses for the monthly magazine about what you intend to do and your grand plan, and actually put something into practice. And I think the proof will definitely be in the pudding when the mid-year budget comes out tomorrow.
Look, Jim Chalmers is also saying that high immigration isn't responsible for our inflation levels. This is despite 500,000 people migrating to Australia in the last financial year. Peter Dutton says this claim is a lie. Have a look.
How does Jim Chalmers look the Australian public in the eye and tell them a story about migration which is not true? The pressure that they're putting onto housing is going to make it less affordable for families to get a home. It's going to make it less affordable for somebody to rent a property. And I think Australians realise that this government's made decisions that are just making it harder for families.
Jenna, I mean, clearly the high immigration intake has been, not solely to blame, but it has certainly been a contributing factor for inflation staying high when you look, as Peter Dutton says, at the pressure that it's put on the rental market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most of those people in Cabinet should probably get outside the Qantas Chairman's Lounge and actually go and talk to everyday Australians that are struggling to either find a rental, pay their rent, or probably suffering from severe mortgage stress at this point in time, because that is very real outside. And whether, I think Mr Chalmers is right, it's not all about migration, it's just a part of the story. But it is a severe factor that the infrastructure in this country is not up to standard.
Look, Peter Dutton in that press conference today, he was on fire, he was blasting everyone, and he had a go at Australia's High Commissioner to the UK, Stephen Smith, former Labor Minister. He said that he should be ashamed of his decision to cancel a key Australia Day event in London next year. And he said that the government needed to intervene on this matter. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it is absolutely disgusting that someone like that is now freelancing overseas. You know, this is a really important day to many Australians, and sure, we can always talk about whether we change the date, but again, that's a decision for the federal government to make. So the fact that, you know, this former minister has taken it upon himself to make this decision, I think, is appalling, and the fact that there has been no response from the government about this just adds to that anger that I think a lot in the community are feeling.
All right, Jenna, Clarke, thank you so much for your time.